Heyo, we're back again with another Ain't That Hard video. Today it's going to be about open worlds. This video is going to be one of 3 different videos for the open worlds with Cetus, Fortuna, and Deimos. While I have spoken about all these 3 open worlds in different videos, I've never discussed standing farming or the best farms and locations within these worlds. It is a subject that is brought up pretty often on stream, so I thought why not just make a video so that everyone can optimize their open world time and understand fully all the different things inside them. Just quickly, if you are new to the channel and this video does help in any way, don't forget to check that subscribe button. It helps me out massively and you can always change your mind later. So starting today with Cetus, the original of course. Cetus has a few important things to get through the standing system. Namely Zors and Zor Arcanes I'd suggest being the most important things that you can get. Alright, so if we're thinking of how best to deal with getting some standing as fast as possible on Cetus, you have 4 different options. Basically, bounties, mining, hunting, and fishing. Off the bat, hunting is really kinda dodgy on Cetus, and it's entirely not worth your time. Which is sad because hunting can be a really fun and unique way to get standing. If you enjoy hunting purely just for the enjoyment side of it, my suggestion is just to do so on Fortuna. Cetus hunting was added in late, and it's just a bit, well, meh, to be honest. We also have mining. This is in the same boat. It's not entirely the best way to get standing, but it can net you a little bit, and I mean if you do need the resources, we should cover how best to go about it, right? If you're mining, there are 2 main locations that I personally deem as the best for getting a bunch at once. This one shown on screen right now is a nice little area that is typically really dense in mining nodes. This is where I would typically suggest people start out first when they load in. Then, if you do need more, we do also have this second area which is much larger. It has a lot more nodes, but they are way more spread out, so it can be a little bit slower in terms of speed. I personally do what I call a mine and dash. I don't bother with the timing on each node. While it can get you a little bit extra for each one it takes, it also takes a lot of extra time. So personally, I fly through, clicking and moving on to the next. Remembering that a resource booster does help with mining, but it is not needed. Running this can net you a little bit, especially if you do this on top of bounties at the same time with a friend. The next things to talk about are the bounties and fishing. Bounties on Cetus are all really stock standard. There are not that many that stand out as great compared to the rest, and while it is possible to re-roll bounties to try and get efficient ones on Cetus, it does take a lot longer than other open worlds such as Deimos. So my general suggestion is to just run whatever the tier 5 bounty is at the time you want to farm. For those that are interested in bounties and want to know the missions each one contains, I have actually created a spreadsheet that I have slowly been making into a tool for users to check in on and help them decide what bounties to try and run them. This was a tool that I originally teased back in our Unvault farming video a long while ago, and something that took way more research and organizing than I had originally planned. This spreadsheet contains a list of every single bounty name and the objectives that go along with it, as well as a step-by-step instruction on how to re-roll bounties if you've never done so before. With more features planned like maps and builds for different farms, as well as potentially calculators, this is what I plan to be working on as a tool for the community. Based on the current information that I have collected, these bounties listed on screen are the most efficient Cetus bounties on average, meaning they have the highest amount of quick missions in them. Now for those who are new to the term re-rolling, re-rolling a bounty is basically a way to force the bounty to have the objectives that you want, but unfortunately it is a bit RNG to get to where you need. When a bounty is selected inside an open world, the objectives for that mission become locked as the exact same no matter how many times you re-vote up again until either the bounties reset or until you leave the Cetus area. For Cetus, there are 2 ways re-rolling works. The first is the most obvious. If the bounty you are currently looking for is already an option, first enter the open world and secondly vote it up. Using the spreadsheet as a guide to figure out what objectives you want to have in your bounty. If an objective ever pops up that is slow or that you don't want, simply leave the open world and enter again. Rinse and repeat this until you get the right objectives. Same as in our Unvault farm. As soon as you get what you want, these objectives will not change until you either leave or the bounties reset. But what if there are no good bounties, I hear you ask? Well, there are these reroll tents, as we call them. Places in the open world that contain other random bounties. It's a lot more complicated, but it still can be done and can still be way more efficient than the normal bounties. Firstly, for this, you want to vote up the mission that you want in the relay. So, select the bounty level that you want, if you want a tier 5 bounty or maybe a tier 3. Whatever you want to farm. Then, enter the open world after voting it up. Go to the objective and then leave, which will cancel the mission. What this small loop does is it locks all bounties that can be voted up to a single tier, namely the tier that you voted up when you went in. So then you simply have to visit the tents. You can see all of these tents marked on the screen here. This then runs into the same method as normal. Select the bounty that you want and then see what objectives spawn. The issue here is that it takes a lot longer than the other way, so given how hard re-rolling bounties on Cetus is, it's normally not worth your time to do this unless it's already an available bounty. That was a very long-winded explanation, but the reason I did so, however, was because it's extremely similar in methods that can be used in Fortuna and Deimos. And if you plan on spending much time in any of the open worlds, it is at least worth having this knowledge, especially with access to this spreadsheet. Now, bounties are not how I actually farm my standing on Cetus. I do things a little bit differently. I actually personally do fishing. It's a much more relaxing way of farming standing, but it is definitely slower. Specifically, fishing in the ocean area in hotspots for mercury. Every large mercury you catch is worth 1,000 standing, and you can have as many in your inventory at one time as you want. So me personally, I fish these while watching a show or chatting to a friend, but it's a pretty relaxed way to grab your standing as well. Run a vault, as vault's passive makes you one-hit every single fish no matter what fishing rod you're using, as long as you move around a little in between trying to catch them. Now grab some mercury bait, some dye, and relax. It adds up quickly, and even better, mercury spawn both day and night, so you never need to worry about what time it is either. For general fishing like resources, there are 3 different defined locations such as ponds, lakes, and oceans within Cetus. Each one of these spawns different kinds of fish, and this can also be impacted by day-night cycles. So if I covered every single fish, you would never really finish this video. Instead, check the wiki, which I have linked in the description, and find what area it spawns in and when. Then use this map here. This shows all the areas that are lakes, ponds, and oceans. The very last thing I wanted to mention with Cetus is the obscure resources, the ones that you find traveling around in the open world. Sometimes it can be very painful to get enough of these. Things like iridite are needed in a fair few things. So I have a quick method for this too. Pretty simple, speedy explanation. A limbo with a max possible range and efficiency. Run with a loot radar and either vacuum or fetch on your companion. Then run around Cetus, look at the radar, and anytime you see these loot icons, nuke them with your 4. Limbo's 4 breaks all resources and your vacuum picks them up when you get close. If you do this in Steel Path, you get way extra resources because yes, this does get impacted by Steel Path too. As for Eidolons, well, that's complicated enough to need its own video. So, since I don't have one, I'm going to link to a fellow content creator called Nightmareframe in the description and his guides, as he is much more experienced in that field than I. Despite what shows on the surface, there are a lot of little intricacies behind the surface of these open worlds, and there are tons of ways to optimize or play differently depending on what you want. These are the very best methods and locations I have found through my playtime or through research, so I hope they work for you as well. For those wanting Fortuna or Deimos content, you got that coming to you soon in a part 2, to make sure that I keep uploading and stuff. If you did enjoy, hit us with a like and I'll catch you next time. Robo out.